Good afternoon, everyone. I call this meeting to order at 1:04 p.m. on June 11th, 2024. I want to welcome all the commissioners and, of course, all those in attendance to the Commission for Historical Architectural Preservation. At this time, I'd like to do a roll call and have everyone introduce themselves. First, my name is Harry Spikes. I'm the chairman for the commission. Welcome once again, and I'll pass it down.
Lauren Shizek, Acting Executive Director.
Peter Morrill, Commissioner.
Sarah Langmead, Commissioner.
Gary Rodwell, Commissioner.
Tamara Woods, Commissioner representing DHCD.
Catherine Good, Commissioner.
Jill Dennis, Commissioner.
John Bullock, City Council Representative to CHAP.
Kapal Lynn, Commissioner.
Garrett Power, Commissioner.
CHAP staff, go right ahead.
Tyreek Charlouse, CHAP staff.
Eddie Leon, CHAP staff.
Rachel Donaldson, CHAP staff.
Our newest CHAP member, welcome. Welcome once again. The mission of CHAP is to enhance and promote the culture and economy of Baltimore through the preservation of buildings, structures, sites, and neighborhoods that have aesthetic, historic, and architectural value. CHAP's goals include improving historic architecture and monuments, reclaiming broken neighborhoods, preventing demolition by neglect, and integrating our city's past into its future. I want to give you all a couple of housekeeping rules. You may have seen these two sheets given to me. These two sheets allow you to sign your name if you want to testify. If you want to testify on a subject that is on our agenda today, please feel free to reach out to one of our staff and you can put your name here on the sheet. What we usually do, we only give you 2 to 3 minutes to speak. I usually give people 3 minutes. But this is what we do. If there's 30 seconds left and you're about to hit that 3-minute mark, I will do this. Very rarely do I hit the gavel on somebody, but if I have to, I will. We ask a couple things. If you have to take a cell phone call, please take it outside. If you have a conversation amongst one another, please take that outside. Do not speak unless you are called upon. We do have some folks that have sometime said something when they're not at the podium. But when you are asked to come to the podium and speak, you are free to speak. Other than that, we're going to have a good time, so thank you for joining. I would like to make a motion to waive the reading of the minutes. Do I have a motion to waive the meeting? Thank you, sir. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Are there any corrections or additions that need to be made to the minutes? Hearing none, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the minutes. Do I have a motion to adopt the minutes?
So moved.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Due process and review of procedures. CHAP reviews applications in conjunction with the building permit process of permits, selection of Department of Housing and Community Development. If the building permit application is filed prior to historic design review, the application is placed on hold pending completion of the CHAP review process. The review process is completed by issuing authorization to proceed. The historic design review process is in addition to other applicable laws and regulations and does not diminish the force of urban renewal plans, building codes, zoning codes, etc. It is the applicant's responsibility to comply with all applicable laws, regulations, and codes. Proposed projects are reviewed prior to issuing a building permit. Applicants must comply with the Baltimore City Historic Preservation Design Guidelines in planning and executing their projects. Design review considers the proposed work, taking into consideration the historical, architectural character of the structure and of the immediate area. Applicants will need to clearly explain how their project complies with the design guidelines. Minor projects. In order to expedite the application process, the Commission has delegated a review authority to the Executive Director for cases involving minor work. Minor projects must significantly change the overall appearance of remove the significant undamaged historic fabric. Thank you, Eddie. Major projects. Major projects may change the overall character, appearance, and integrity of the structure. Substantial building alterations, demolitions, additions, and new construction are considered major projects and are reviewed in public hearing. Interested parties should request a pre-development meeting in the planning department to begin their review process. An electronic of all materials must be submitted to the CHAP staff at least 25 calendar days prior to the public hearing date. If the application is complete, the project shall be scheduled for a public hearing. CHAP hearings. At the public hearing, CHAP staff presents recommendations to the commission regarding the project. Following the staff presentation, the applicant may make a presentation to the commission. Interested parties, including neighborhood associations, have the opportunity to provide public testimony. Following testimony, the commission renders a decision on the application at the public hearing. Persons aggrieved by the decision of the commission may seek judicial and appellate review in accordance with the Baltimore City Code. After an authorization to proceed is issued, the applicant may obtain a building permit. The commission's process is impartial, and staff comments are evidence that assist the commissions in rendering the decision. I would like to let me see what we got here. Yep, we're good to go. Let us begin. We do not have anything on our consent agenda, so we'll go right to our regular agenda. 1416. Oh, yeah. Do I have a motion to approve the final agenda? So moved. Thank you, sir. Second. All in favor? Aye. Ayes have it. For our first item on the agenda, 1416 Druid Hill Avenue, Upton's Marble Hill Historic District. The request, concept review, construct two-story building. Owner, A Better Be More Foundation LLC. And the applicant is Courtney Abram, and the staff is Tyreek. If I pronounce your name wrong, when you come up, please correct me so we can put it in the record right. Thank you.
Good evening, commissioners. Good evening, community. Thank you all for being here. This is a request for concept review to construct a two-story building at 1416 Druid Hill Avenue in the Upton's Marble Hill Historic District. I am the staff member, Tyreek Charluz. The applicant is Courtney Aburn, and the owner is A Better Be More Foundation. All right. For site conditions, the site contains a grass-filled vacant lot located on the west side of the 1400 block of Druid Hill Avenue. It has a one-lane wide front yard curb cut and the driveway located on the south side of the lot. This lot has been unofficially adopted by neighbors as a community green space. West Lafayette Street is the cross street to the south and Mosher is the cross street to the north. A two-story warehouse building is located to the west of the lot, which prevents access to Edding Street and Alley Street. Historically, this property was two lots that were consolidated in the 19th century, shown here in the Sanborn maps. Recorded at 1418, there was a brick three-story with the basement row house located on the north portion of the lot. It abutted the still extant building at 1420 Druid Hill Avenue and was likely a twin to that structure. There was a two-story carriage house at the rear of the lot. That faced onto Edding Street. By 1914, as shown on the Sanborn map, the garage was demolished at the rear and the portion of the lot was subdivided. A large two-story warehouse structure was constructed in the place of the former garage, blocking access to Edding Street from the rear of the lot, causing 1418 Druid Hill Avenue to be landlocked. The 1451 Sanborn map shows that a one-story garage marked A for auto was located on the south side of the lot, and the surviving curb cut clearly served that garage. It is unknown when the buildings on this property were demolished, but many properties have been demolished in Upton's Marble Hill through planned urban renewal and emergency demolition over the past 50 years up to present. This is the first application to CHAP for this property. The property has been owned by the mayor and city council since 1997. In October 2003, the Board of Estimates approved the land disposition agreement to sell the property to A Better Foundation Be More Incorporated. The Board of Estimates records notes that the Ed Reed Foundation, which is a subsidiary of A Better Be More Foundation Incorporated, met with the Upton Planning Committee in December 2022 and received approval of the development plan. It was sold by the Department of Housing and Community Development to the current owner in February 2024, following a request of proposals process. The Department of Planning held a pre-development meeting with the applicant on April 16, 2024. The proposal is to construct a two-story, 30-foot high, 20-foot wide, 70-foot wide, deep structure towards the middle of the lot. The building is flush with the front lot line. The building's main entrance will be accessed on the side, which is the north elevation, following an entrance pattern that is typical of several other houses within the block, including the neighboring property at 1414 Druid Hill Avenue, that have front yard setbacks, but which are atypical for properties that are built on the front lot lines. Right. The front facade will be a 30-foot tall, two-story elevation clad with red brick and dark accent brick. It will have two irregular bays, one which is set back from the other bay by a foot or so. Both bays feature casement windows with transoms on the first and second floors. Between the windows on the first and second floors are tall spandrel panels comprised of dark brick. Below the first floor windows are dark metal flower boxes. The left recessed bay will contain paired casement windows with transoms at the first and second floor, and the surrounding fenestration of this bay is a narrow protruding metal frame. The right bay will contain single casement windows with a transom at the first and second floor. The second floor window will have a brick roll-lock header. The building's cornice is proposed to be a modest red brick protrusion in red brick soldier cores. The north side elevation will be 6 bays wide, and the first 3 bays closer to Druid Hill Avenue are clad with red brick. The 3 bays at the interior of the site farthest from Druid Hill Avenue will be clad with dark siding and feature window fenestration patterns similar to those on the front facade. The building's cornice will wrap the corner from the facade and continues until the red brick elevation is terminated. The 2 leftmost bays will contain a single casement window with a transom at the first and second floors. There will be dark accent brick in the roll-lock headers. The main entrance will be in the 3rd bay, set back from the street. The transom, located under a metal canopy above the main entryway at the 2nd floor, will be a casement window with a transom at the 1st and 2nd floors. At the 5th bay, there will be a casement window at the 1st and 2nd floors. Between the 4th, 5th, and 6th bays, there will be wall-mounted trellises at the 1st floor. There will be exterior lights at the 1st floor at regular intervals along the elevation. The south side elevation features a 2-story brick wall on half of the elevation towards Druid Hill Avenue and dark accent siding on the other half. The brick portion on the elevation will be a blank wall without fenestration. At the rear cladded portion of the elevation, there will be 4 casement windows with a transom, 2 on each floor. There will be exterior lights at the 1st floor at regular intervals along this elevation. The lot includes a curb cut on Druid Hill Avenue located on the southern portion of the property. The proposal shows the addition of a driveway adjacent to the south elevation of the building with horizontal board fencing around the driveway. The rear elevation will face an abandoned 2-story garage. The elevation will be built with a dark accent lap siding. The rear elevation will be 2 bays wide. The left bay will include a full light metal frame door at the 1st floor and a full light door at the 2nd floor. The rightmost bay will have 2 single casement windows with a transom at the 1st floor and 2 casement windows at the 2nd floor. The 2nd floor will be accessed with a new covered deck with an egress stairway with pipe guardrails and square posts. The roof's pitch sloped towards the rear elevation, and the rear of the building has a 25-foot setback from the rear property line. Staff used the following guidelines: 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, 2.4.1, 2.4.5, 2.5.1, 2.5.2, 4.2.3, and 4.2.4 to consider this project for its design of scale and form in its building features. As far as building 2.1 guiding principles for new design, the proposed structure is similar in material to other structures within the neighborhood with red brick. The massing of the structure contrasts from the typical pattern within the neighborhood because the facade of the property has 2 offset planes. However, all other aspects of the massing are compatible. The materiality, height, and scale in some of the detailing visually relates to the neighborhood's precedent. The design is also contemporary and reflects its current time and aesthetics. Staff believes that this design meets this guideline. For 2.2, site design. The proposal largely meets this guideline. The proposal will retain the existing property line and setbacks. The existing pattern of the building width and spacing between buildings on this lot and houses are 18 to 20 feet wide that are either row houses or attached to one other house with a side yard. This proposal doesn't follow the predominant pattern within the neighborhood, as it is designed to be a standalone building with 10-foot side yard on each side of the building. However, it does have a similar orientation and relationship to the street as existing buildings, and the side entrance is found on several other buildings on the block, including immediately to the south and across the street. The existing pattern of open space and enclosure created by existing vehicular and circulation routes is being retained in this design. There's an existing curb cut at the front of the property, which, while unusual in this neighborhood, dates to the mid-20th century. In this proposal, this curb cut will serve as a driveway that will allow 2 vehicles to park on site. This proposal largely meets this guideline. For 2.3, scale and form. The proposal partially meets this guideline. The proportions of solids, the voids, and rhythm of the new construction responds to the existing historic buildings on Druid Hill Avenue. The facade's fenestration patterns are similar to the proportions of structures on Druid Hill Avenue. However, the front facade is not flush, which is not seen within the neighborhood. The design has a modest cornice, which appears to straddle the divide between the large, heavy cornices that dominate the neighborhood and the modest brick cornices of the adjacent properties at 1412 and 1414 Druid Hill Avenue. The floor-to-floor heights do not appear to match the surrounding properties. While all of the surrounding properties are 3 stories tall, they vary in height. Many of the properties, like 1420 Druid Hill Avenue, immediately north of this property, immediately to Many of the properties, like 1420 Druid Hill Avenue, immediately north of this property are 3 stories tall on raised basements with generous floor-to-floor heights. The properties immediately to the south are also 3 stories tall but sit at grade and have much shorter floor-to-floor heights. The structure is designed to be 30-foot tall, which includes a 3.5-foot tall parapet. In terms of height, it is comparable to the surrounding neighborhoods immediately to the south. However, this building is only 2 stories tall and not 3. The generous floor-to-floor heights in the tall parapet make the facade appear elongated, especially between the floors and above the second story windows. So this proposal partially meets this guideline. For 2.4.1, building entrances. The building's main entrance is on the side elevation under a metal canopy. This respects a pattern that is common on this block among the more modest homes that have generous setbacks from the street and have front yards. However, the majority of the houses in the neighborhood are built to the front property line, like this one, and have entrances on the front facade. Staff believes that the proposal does not meet this guideline and that the primary entrance should be on the front facade. 2.4.5, roofs. The surrounding roofs are generally flat or have a low pitch. The proposed new construction has a low pitch roof that slopes towards the rear. The proposal meets this guideline. As for 2.5.1, doors and windows, the proposal does not fully meet this guideline. The windows and doors are compatible in scale and placement, but not in terms of operation. The proposed windows are casements with transoms above and are generally inset from the plane on the facade. The historic windows within the neighborhood are double hung and have more shallow insets from the facade. The proposed doors are full light metal single and double doors, which are compatible on the side and rear elevations as proposed. Overall, staff finds that the configuration of the proposed casement windows could be updated to be more visually compatible with typical window configurations within the neighborhood. As far as 2.5.2 materials, the proposal meets this guideline. The front of the building will be clad in red brick with a dark accent brick used in a contemporary style within the brick facade. The dark lap siding at the rear of the building and the dark lap siding at the rear of the building. The red brick masonry is the overwhelming building material in the neighborhood. However, siding is also common on the rear and side elevations. So this proposal meets this guideline. 4.2.3, streets, alleys, and parking. The proposal includes a two-car stacked parking pad in the front yard of the property, facing onto Druid Hill Avenue. Historically, this property had a garage on the lot starting in the mid-20th century, which was served by this curb cut. There is not a general precedent for front yard curb cuts or street-facing parking within the neighborhood. The parking pad in the front uses fencing on the side yard lot line. Staff recommends lengthening the driveway to locate parking further into the site and utilize additional fencing and/or vegetation for screening. This proposal partially meets this guideline. And then we also use 4.2.4, fences, walls, and gates. There is proposed fencing along the side yard and in the front yard. The side yard fencing appears to be horizontal board fencing and is highly visible in its current location. Typically, fencing in front yards is shorter, and staff recommends lowering the height of the fencing that abuts the front yard of the neighboring property. This proposal partially meets this guideline. For the neighborhood comments, the Marble Hill Improvement Association has been informed of this proposal. There has been one neighbor that has submitted a formal letter of opposition that has been given to the commissioners. Analysis. Overall, staff finds that this proposal largely complies with the design guidelines, but some aspects need to be updated in order to comply fully with the design guidelines. Staff believes that the property is compatible with the surrounding properties in terms of height, scale, and overall massing. However, the main entrance is not on the front facade, which is not compatible with the pattern of entrances on buildings that are built to the front property line within this neighborhood. The proposed windows on the front facade are not compatible, as windows on the front facade on Druid Hill Avenue are typically 1/1 double-hung windows. The front wall of the facade has portions that projects and a portion that recesses, and the fenestration does the same. This pattern is atypical within this neighborhood. The proposed fence on the side yard property line is taller than what is typically approved for front yards. The proposal also includes on-site parking in the front yard. While the curb cut is an existing condition of the property and thus parking on site is allowable, the siting of the parking in the front yard instead of in the rear yard is not compatible with the design guidelines. For CHAP's recommendation, CHAP staff recommends concept approval of the design with additional recommendations. 1, that the main entryway be located on the front facade. 2, screen the parking at the front with new vegetation and fencing. 3, revise the proposed products for the windows on the front facade to better comply with the design guidelines. 4, provide more detail to the main entryway. And 5, final design details to return to the full commission. Thank you, commissioners.
Tariq, thank you, sir. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Tariq?
I have a question. Tyrese, the side setbacks, and forgive me if you said this, are those mandated by zoning to be the size that they are as proposed, or is that just the design decision?
I'm not certain if that is a zoning decision, but that came from the design team.
Is the architect, okay, we can talk about that then.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for Tariq? Tariq, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
So we have the applicant is here. Well, let's bring the architect up first, so we can address questions. And when you come up, please give us your full name.
I'm Marissa Timberlake from 2 Point Studio.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions for the architect?
Yes, so my same question, which is the side setbacks. What is determining the side setbacks?
Those are required side setbacks per the R8 zoning. So we have a 10-foot side yard on either side because we're not a residential building, and I believe a 25-foot rear yard setback as well.
Okay. Any other commissioners? Yes, Kathy.
One of the questions that was brought up in the letter from the neighbor was about how many students this would be serving. Given the compact nature of the row house lots, what kind of load is this building designed for? How many people will be coming in and out?
I would have to refer to the foundation on that. I know it's mostly going to be for after-school care for middle school students. I don't think it's a large group. But again, I'd have to refer back to the foundation and get the recommendation.
Okay. Is the owner will be testifying in a minute?
We have their name on the list. Is the owner here? Okay, the owner isn't here. Their name is on our list, but we don't, they're not present, it seems.
They might have stepped out for a second.
Yeah.
Catherine, on the plans, it has level 1 occupancy 70, 248 for a total of 118 per the plans.
Right, that's at one time, but that doesn't mean, if they have different times and different programs, it's a different amount of people.
Right, that's just for, those are our fire safety loads.
I have one more question. In the front of the building, the way that you've kind of given the small change in the front plane, I guess what strikes me as a bit odd is that most of the language of kind of stepping the front facade, the street facade in and out is usually used to break up longer facades so that they have better, a more compatible rhythm with the cityscape around it. And here, the width of the building does match the size, the pattern of the neighborhood, but then you're cutting it in half. And so just wondered why, if that was important and why you wanted to do that.
So part of that was trying to step it back towards the recessed row homes at 1414 Druid Hill Ave, I believe. And then the one pushed to the sidewalk was to speak to the one at 1420 Druid Hill Ave. This is still pretty early in concept phase, so we wanted to take all these recommendations in and use them moving forward. So we recognize that it's irregular from the surrounding buildings.
Yeah, I would say that move makes it less compatible with the surrounding buildings because you're breaking up into proportions that don't quite match. And really the strongest relationship seems to be with the building at 1420, which is used as a church, but typologically as a house.
Cool. Oh, K-Pow, go ahead, K-Pow, yeah.
Hi, just have a few questions. The main entry, is there, I think I heard an ADA reasoning why main entry is not in the front?
Yep, so we have a small slope going up to the rear of the site, so we positioned it on the side so we could get you up to the first floor. We believe we'll be able to do it looking at the civil survey now without a ramp, so we can just use the natural grade and have a sidewalk at accessible slope up to the door at the side. We also wanted to kind of keep it off the front of the building so that way if people are gathering, it's not directly adjacent to the residential homes to the south of the site.
Would there be opposition to, would there be a consideration of having both entrances so you still match up to the existing condition of the block but then still have the secondary entrance as well as an ADA entrance?
Yeah, we can definitely consider that and look into that.
The only thing I was going to ask, because I'll ask one more time, is the owner or the applicant, are they here? Because then I can pose this question to you too. When I read, there's a letter in here by a Cruz, don't want to say what, Jerry, Cruz, and neighbors. There's a big, of course, community engagement piece that across the city, all of the work that we all do, it matters. My question is, though, they raised that they weren't told about the building or shared with what was going to happen. I'm not going to assume that Jerry speaks for the neighbors because the letter is entitled Sincerely Jerry Cruz and Neighbors, but I'm going to assume that Jerry is not for the project. And so my question is, was there some type of engagement that took place with the community as relates to just this building that you all know of?
I believe the foundation has been in contact with the neighborhood group. I know they've been in contact with the Upton Association, but
Okay.
I can't speak further.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, cool.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'll just add, now with the change in the districts, it's now part of the 9th, and I did have a meeting with the Ed Reed Foundation. I know they did have some conversation with Upton Planning Committee as well as Historic Marble Hill, so they have had those communications. I don't know about this one individual, but they have had those meetings too and been supportive.
Good, okay, good. That's all I need to know. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Tyree, thank you. Tyree, can you send us to our recommendation page? Thank you, Tyree. Commissioners, before we vote, is there any discussion you all would like to have before we render the decision?
There's no one else signed up for testimony?
You know what? You do. We have one. We have one. Thank you. Oh, okay. We only have one on the list. I apologize.
I signed Bill 1 entitled the Drew Hill.
Okay. Well, it's okay. How many, raise your hands. How many people want to testify? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, you all. That's fine. Okay, well, let's start from, we have, in community, forgive me. We have Marion Blackwell. Is Marion Blackwell here? Speak. Come right on up. And then after Marion Blackwell speaks, we'll just go down the list. Okay.
Good evening. I am the ARC for Historic Marble Hill Community Association, and I'm here to give
Please
the
state your
communities.
name.
Pardon?
Your name.
Marion Blackwell. I'm kind of lost for words because this is not what the community wants to see architecturally in that block. 2 stories in a building which is 30 feet high, in a building, in a neighborhood where there are traditionally 3 stories, 2 setbacks. According to that drawing that I see here, that building is quite imposing. I remember the original building that was there at 1416 Druid Hill Avenue. It was a 3-story building with a side iron porch. And in that house housed A. Jack Thomas, an international musician. And also in that building were some of the founding fathers that started the Morgan State University. Now Morgan State University lived in that particular dwelling. I'm disappointed, I can speak for Marion as the ARC for Historic Marble Hill, that there was no real meeting with the Marble Hill Community Association to discuss the design or even recommendations for the type of design for the space. The 1400 quadrant of Druid Hill Avenue and McCullough Street is one of, I guess I could use the word, most bastardized quadrants in the neighborhood. We have impending development coming 3 or 4 houses down, 1408, I think, to 1406 or 1404. That's a different type of housing development. I am not an architect. I have always loved good architecture. I don't see it here. I'm sorry. I just have to say, I just don't like the windows. It's just something, a building, a huge building with sidewalks or whatever you want to call it on each side of the building. It does not fit the rhythm or the character of the block. So I have to stop talking. But right now,
You got 30 seconds.
okay, but right now, I mean, that is my concerns. And unless those things are remedied some way, I don't know. And we did meet with the Ed Reed Foundation over a year ago, and we suggested and recommended a location, and it was not 1416 Druid Hill Avenue, which has previously been a lot for gardening for children. Thank you.
Thank you. we have a Malcolm Lewis. Come right on up.
Good afternoon, staff and commissioners. Malcolm Lewis. I prepared a letter, or statement, I guess, at this point. So, dear Commission for Historical and Architectural Preservation, I am writing to express my vehement opposition to the proposed new construction project at 1416 Druid Hill Avenue in our beloved historic neighborhood. While I understand the need for development, modernization, and community resources for our children, I firmly believe that the location for this project is wholly inappropriate for our predominantly residential block. Firstly, what's left of Marble Hill in West Baltimore is a beacon of historical significance relevant to its role in African American history, as Ms. Blackwell alluded to. The quaint streets, lined with century-old houses and mature trees, create an atmosphere that is irreplaceable. Introducing a modern construction project that does not directly mirror what was previously there would be akin to placing a neo sign in a museum. A glaring eyesore that detracts from the historical ambiance that we have all worked so hard to preserve. Members of this community, particularly this block, have grown to love the green space that is in place of the structure that once stood there. And although I haven't had the opportunity to see it, I believe, as we kind of went over what was actually there, the three-story structure would be appropriate, or a three-story structure would be more appropriate than what's proposed. I have also serious concerns with the environmental impact. Our neighborhood is home to a variety of wildlife. It is the city, but I'd like to see a squirrel or two living across the street. The loss of green space and potential harm to the local flora and fauna cannot be justified by the proposed development. Secondly, the proposed development will inevitably lead to increased traffic and congestion. Our streets were not designed to handle the volume of vehicles that such a project will attract. The peace and quiet that we currently enjoy will be shattered, and our children will no longer be able to play safely outside, among other issues as well. Furthermore, the construction project itself will bring noise, dust, and disruption to our lives, making it a living nightmare for the duration of the project. Moreover, there is the issue of property values. Many of us have invested significant time. I personally rebuilt 1403 and are living there currently. It took 17 months to ensure that all historical details were restored to their proper position. But many of us have invested resources in maintaining and enhancing our homes, which contribute to the overall charm and desirability of the neighborhood. A new incongruent construction project will undoubtedly have a detrimental effect on the property values, undermining our investments and the character of our community. In conclusion, so right on time, while I recognize the importance of progress and community, and I love Ed Reed, it must not come at the expense of our historic heritage, community character, and quality of life. I urge the commission to, just consider heavily the proposal and alternative locations that are more suitable for the development. Let us preserve the charm and tranquility of our neighborhood, of our historic neighborhood, for future generations to enjoy. Thanks.
You almost had it. Yeah, you almost had it. Thank you. A couple seconds. So we're now going to transition to the folks who wanted to sign up to testify but didn't. So we can start with the front row. Who would you like to go first? You or?
No, my husband is just here to be.
Yes, ma'am.
You want me to talk?
Go by all means. When you get up,
Okay,
by
I don't
all
have
means.
written anything. My name is Joan Davis, and I just happen to live directly across the street from this project. We've only been there 42 years, that's all. No one consulted me that they were going to put this building across there, but who am I? I'm just a person that lives there. But what they didn't say was, in that area, we only have 5 blocks, we only have 5 churches. Can you imagine on Sunday, funerals and weddings? And up the street is YMCA. That's another situation. Pennsylvania Avenue, I can't even imagine anybody trying to bring children closer to Pennsylvania Avenue. In other words, they need to go in another direction or somewhere else. When I say the 15, 16, 1700 block of Pennsylvania Avenue isn't great for children, trust me. Trying to get down Drill Hill Avenue, it says 25 miles an hour. No. We've tried to get bumpers, and whatever you call it, stop signs and everything, Marble Hill, weren't successful. They call my husband Mr. Daisy because he has to sit in the back of me when I drive. Traffic flows down there so fast. They didn't consider that when they came to children. Another thing, across from Booker T, which the school I attended, there is Douglas Memorial Church. We have so many churches that need help. They could tunnel that money and energy and all those churches, and the kids could go there. And lastly, that building, compared to all the houses on Drill Hill Avenue, is the living pits. And when you go to other countries, they keep their old buildings. They don't put things up there, not in that area. Our street, Drill Hill Avenue, can remain the same if someone would put another house there similar to what's there. This is out of whack. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on our list of folks who'd like to come up and speak.
Okay.
Come by all means, if you want to.
No. My name is Lainey Jackson Dixon, but Miss Marion Blakely is going to continue for me.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Well, that's me. Feisty group. I must say, I'm proud of my neighbors. Everything that they've said, I need not repeat. Historic Marble Hill is a jewel to Baltimore City. It has produced more national leaders than any place in the country. The National Trust for Historic Preservation can tell you that. We've been a local historic district for 40 years. When you ride through there, it's a disgrace. It's a disgrace. And the people and the founders of the Marble Hill Community Association, which originally was named after Henry Hall, the guy who started the Baltimore Aquarium, are just appalled at what we have got to go through. We see millions of dollars put in one building when we have long-term residents. They'll tell you the truth, that work hard through credit card debt, loans, include me, to try to hold the neighborhood together, and all we ever get is dumped on, and you take it or you don't like it. You take it anyway. That's the attitude. I think my neighbors have expressed that. This is not a go. I'm sorry. You can look at the guidelines, the windows, and to me, it's total disrespect that you would not come along and try to follow the sync housing patterns, the window structures, and things that are there. I'm disappointed. I'm 81 years old. I've been fighting this battle for 50 years. Some of you probably not even that old on the panel. But the thing is that we got to stop this. You can't come into neighborhoods and make decisions without talking to the people that are there, that have been living there for 40 years and so forth, who have an invested interest. This is an African-American neighborhood that is one of the most prolific in the United States of America. How can we move economically when this kind of stuff is going on and we are looking at a future of tourism, celebrating African-American history, and people come along and see stuff like this? Yeah, I mean, I gotta go again. But you know, I'm gonna tell you, I'm proud of my neighbors. We are like a family. We have our infightings, we have everything, just like families do. But this is not something that is pleasing at all. I don't think anyone would look at that and revel in its beauty. Thank you.
So go right ahead, pal. One of our commissioners has a question for you.
Yes.
Sorry, giving you more light. Just give me.
I'm sorry.
I just real quick question. Typically on a project like this and for acquisition like this, DHCD comes out and does a lot of community meetings and talking about that property. You're saying that never happened?
It never happened. We had one meeting with the Ed Reed Foundation, which we made a recommendation that they place the project, which we questioned if it was really needed in the neighborhood, on McCullough and Madison, where there's a vacant lot. It was across the street from Booker T. We said, you know, we'll support you in getting the lot and the building to put your foundation's dream there. But the lot is narrow. 1416 is a narrow lot. I mean, I just don't understand. I can't see how a good architect would even proudly present anything like that. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one more. Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Gary. Ms. Blackwell, you're summoned one more time.
Just stay up there. Just stay up there.
Just stay up there.
All right, okay.
Gary Rodwell.
Yes, I know.
What did you say was there now? Did someone mention it's a vacant lot, but has it been greened? It looks as if it's been greened.
Be careful. Remember the rules. Remember the rules.
It's a
Only
green
spoke
space
upon.
where we've had children in the past have flower gardens there, right? And in lieu of us not having the kids working, Miss Davis has been maintaining the lot. And that's not unusual for us to find usually seniors taking care of the vacant lots because they think we got time on our hands. But anyway, it was previously a lot that was used for gardening and children. As a matter of fact, I was talking to the Federation of Gardeners and working with Madison Park, Bolton Hill, and Marble Hill. We're looking at doing more green spaces and making the neighborhood more green. So that was our children's lot. No one informed us that they were going to be doing anything on that lot until we got notice about the hearing.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other commissioners have any questions? Okay. Will, you would like to come speak? Give us your full name.
My name is Judy Godley Cruz, and I
Oh,
live in
to the
that
mic.
house right
Say
there.
it again in the mic.
Judy Godley Cruz. I'm the one who wrote the letter on behalf of myself and my neighbors, and that's my house right there. And I feel that the one with the this is my house right here. This is Jada's house, and this is Cece's house right here. And I find it very interesting that
You had to come back to the mic so we can hear you because we can't pick you up.
I find it very interesting that this is the picture that was chosen to show that lot that is extremely beautiful, which you will see in the pictures that is passing around. Because I wrote this letter to express my strong opposition and my neighbor's strong opposition to allowing the Reed Foundation to build the Reed House. We have been disrespected. This has been rude and inconsiderate and careless by DHCC and by the Ed Reed Foundation. The Ed Reed Foundation had the audacity to put a sign on December 22nd, 2 days before Christmas, a sign on that lot saying, coming soon. I didn't know. Look where I live. I didn't know. Jada, next door, didn't know. Pastor Jackson, Pastor Johnson, from that church right there, didn't know. Didn't know. How are you going to build this building that's going to have God knows how many children coming day and night, 2 times a day, because they're claiming that it's going to be morning and afternoon, and not tell us. This impacts our health, our well-being, our quality of life, and nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody heard us. We told them, no, there are other buildings. This is not adding value. This is not adding value to our neighborhood, to our historical district. There's a building, and they're begging for money under false pretenses. The Ed Reed Foundation doesn't even have the money to build this. They're asking investors under false pretenses to gain money to raise $2 million to build on that space when there's so many buildings in Baltimore City that need rehabilitation. There's a building right across the street from the school. Why don't they pick that one? On 2 sides, on McCullough, in front of the school, and on the other side of the school, there's 2 abandoned, dilapidated buildings that they could use And that would add value to the community. They're telling investors that that building is adjacent to the school. That's a lie. That building is not adjacent to the school. Okay? It's adjacent to a church. So that's not true that they're saying that. Okay? So I'm completely opposed to it. We're all completely opposed to it. We told them. And another thing, I question the open bid program. I question it because in 2022, Ed Reed came to our block doing a photo op and a whole video on our block. He was wearing a blue suit, and a woman with a yellow suit was with him in 2022. And a neighbor came out and asked him, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Oh, we're just recording how beautiful this block is." That was his first opportunity for community engagement. His first opportunity.
Ms. Cruz,
and
you've
he
gone,
didn't
you've
do
gone,
it.
you've gone over.
He
We
didn't
got
do
it. We got
okay?
it. We got
He
it.
didn't do. He could have told Cece next door, saw him, asked him in his face, "What is it? What are you doing?" And he said, "Oh, we're just recording. We're just recording this beautiful block." Yes, it is a beautiful block, and that was his first opportunity for community engagement, and he didn't do it. This is not community.
Ms.
planning.
Cruz,
This is
Ms.
not
Cruz,
community
we
development.
understand. Thank you. Thank you. Anthony, can you take us back to our recommendation page?
Just a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Ownership or representative from ownership is not here. Is
Let's
that correct?
check again. Is the owner of the lot here? Okay, so we've asked 4 times, let the record reflect.
Okay.
We've asked.
Thanks.
Thank you, you're welcome. Thank you, K. Powell. Commissioners, would we like to have a conversation about this? Please feel free to engage.
Sure. Let me just speak really quickly. So I'm Tamara Woods with DHCD, and I don't know the full background on this particular project, but please believe that I'm listening and hearing everything that you're saying. So what I would like to do, and this is outside of whatever decision is made today, because I'm not sure how commissioners will vote, but following this meeting, I definitely think that we should communicate and have a conversation with the community. So I'm really sorry that you feel that you haven't been heard throughout the process, but we are going to work with you. The property has been sold to the Ed Reed Foundation, so we will loop them in and have a conversation regardless. But with that, I'll turn it back over to the matter at hand, and depending on how the vote goes today, we'll incorporate that in as needed.
Commissioner Woods, thank you. K. Powell, go ahead.
In my opinion, I think we should table this. Obviously, we can get into the architecture of things right now, but there's an obvious disparity between, the ownership's not here. There's clear disparity between the community and why this process is not, moved forward in a very good light, and getting into architectural details and recommendations right now doesn't, in my opinion, does not seem fitting. There needs to be some pre-work to be done with the development team and the community. And so I can't even talk about building stuff right now. In my opinion, I think that we should table the project.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, sir.
I concur with the idea to table. I will say also on the agenda is another project that's in our district. And I will say with that applicant, we have had continuing communication. I've seen them at community meetings. It's been back and forth on multiple occasions, which is encouraging. In this case, I wish there would be more of that. So again, I'm in agreement as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Do I have any other commissioners?
I was just gonna say, I agree. I don't feel like I can talk about the architecture, the massing until there's more communication.
Okay. Well, there are no other comments. This is what we do. And of course, Lauren, feel free to, if I need to change it, we'll change it. For 1416 Druid Hill Avenue, concept review, construction, 2-story structure, the commission will hold for a decision on this and allow the CHAP staff and of course, members of DHCD for Baltimore City to reconvene with the community to find better ways and practices to see how this project can move forward or stay where it is. Do I have a person who will second that motion?
Second.
Okay.
Can you make that motion? You can't make
How
that
about
motion, can you?
I'll make the motion.
He made it for me.
Thank
All right.
Okay, thank you for first sentence. Thank you for seconding it. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? The ayes have it. I want to thank the community for your input. Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have 811. Oh, I got y'all. But before we do that, would you all, let me, would you,
No, the food, the food is here, yeah.
would you all like to take a break for food? Okay,
Yes.
we will take a 25-minute break. How long would you like?
10?
I eat slow. Okay, all right, 10-minute break. We'll convene. Thank you. I call this meeting to order at 2:19 to reconvene for our next item on our agenda, 811 West Lanville Street, Upton Mansion, Baltimore City Landmark, request revised concept review, construct two-story rear addition and site alterations. The owner, the Upton Mansion LLC, the applicant, Claire Eldon, Zyger Sneed Architects. If I pronounced your name wrong, please forgive me. And the staff will be Lauren.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, I need to recuse myself at this point.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, Jill.
Okay. And Commissioner Dennis will come get you at the end. Okay. Thank you so much, Chairman. This project is not new to most of you. We reviewed this a couple times last year, so I'm going to try to be brief in my overview of the property since we've talked about it before. This property is located here on West Lanville Street between Upton and Fremont. It's a circa 1838 brick Greek Revival mansion. It's sited at the top of a hill on a 1-acre lot. It served as a country house of David Stewart, who was a prominent Baltimore attorney and politician. And this building has had many, many lives, serving as a radio station, a school, and what was it, a music school for African-American children, and it's poised for new life. This is an aerial view of the property. This is an aerial view from the north, from the east, from the south, and from the west. And this is a view from West Lanville Street as well. We're just gonna walk down West Lanville Street here. This is the view from the rear alley. So it sits on a hill and it is surrounded by tall stone walls on 3 of its 4 sides. From the south view of the property, this is because of the way that it's oriented and the location of 3-story houses surrounding it. Here in this unnamed alley is the only view, public view, of the rear of the lot that will be visible from a public street. And this is the Saxe 1869 bird's eye view maps showing the south portion of the mansion house. And again, just some images over time, 1890 Sanborn Fire Insurance map. Not a lot of detail, just shows the buildings, the main house, the carriage house, a greenhouse. This 1897 topographical survey shows a lot more detail of the landscaping. Curiously, the carriage house is not there. So, these maps sometimes aren't always necessarily fully accurate. This is a photo from the 1936 Historic American Building Survey showing the front of the house. And this was the rear 2-story porch that was later demolished in the 1950s. And I'm just going to sort of walk you through the house. It currently has a curved drive that leads up to the house, past the carriage house. And we're just going to walk around it. This is the rear elevation. This is a rear stair tower that was built in the 1950s when it served as a school, so that is not historic, although it's, I guess appropriate, but it is actually, that addition is proposed for demolition. This is the proposed location of the addition on the rear of the lot. And again, just some images showing the overall view and sense of place of this lot, since it is a unique character. So, sorry, I need to get to my background. This property was most recently owned by the mayor and city council for almost 70 years. It became vacant once it ceased serving as a school in 2006, and the property was awarded to Afro Charities by DHCD, and it will be redeveloped as the offices and archives for the Afro-American newspaper and the offices of Afro Charities. And the sale of this property from the city to the current owner was finalized in early January 2024, so just a few months ago. The commission reviewed prior proposals for the addition and site work completed by a different architect at the April 11th, 2023 and June 13th, 2023 hearing. And at the June 2023 hearing, the commission approved a rear two-story addition and site work with final details to be reviewed and approved at staff level. And the commission required archaeological monitoring of excavation in areas that are currently paved and the submission of a report documenting those findings. I'm just going to quickly, just to refresh your memory, go through some renderings and elevations of the previous proposal, since what you're seeing today is an update of that proposal. So just going to just scroll through some of these renderings. This is a view from the facade from the east. This is a rear aerial view of the proposed addition. And just this is some of the proposed cladding, which was a terra clad product. And I'll do a little more, some more comparative images. So the proposal is to construct a sizable two-story contemporary addition at the rear of the mansion and construct accessible entrances to both to the mansion house and the carriage house. The proposal that's being presented today includes revisions of the proposal that previously received approval from the commission, and it was staff's opinion that these alterations were significant enough that it needed to come back to the commission for your review. So this is the previous site plan, and it's annotated with some of the site changes that Ziegler Architects and the applicants wanted to address. So this is the new site plan, which shows a lot of changes. The proposal, in the previous proposal, the main entrance to both the mansion and the addition was through a hyphen. But it required accessing the hyphen up a set of high stairs. It had an accessible entrance that was, around, on the full other side of the lot. And so the team decided to sort of simplify and consolidate. So I'm going to talk first about the changes to the proposed addition, and then talk about the changes to the proposal for the carriage house, and then the changes to the site plan. So bear with me as we do a little tour. The massing and the footprint of the addition has changed. It's wider than the previous version. The location and orientation has been updated so that the addition is closer to the mansion house and is parallel. In a previous iteration, it was sort of askance. And the addition also projects further west on the site, so it will be more visible from West Laneville Street between the mansion and the carriage house. In this proposal, the rooftop deck is much smaller than in the previous version, and the rooftop deck is only as wide as the hyphen and relatively shallow. And in this proposal, the HVAC condensers will be located on the rooftop of the addition. The proposed two-story addition is rectilinear with a flat roof attached to the rear of the mansion house at the location in the 1950s stair tower. So the 1950s brick stair tower will be removed and replaced with a three-story glassy hyphen. And while the addition is mainly, 2 stories tall, the hyphen itself is 3 stories because the mansion is 3 stories. So there needs to sort of be that, connectivity. The first floor addition of this the first floor of the addition has been lowered to grade, and the primary entrance to the building as a whole is through that first floor at grade entrance on the east side of the addition, which is accessed from the parking lot. So that will be the fully accessible and primary entrance to the building. This is a view of the west elevation of the mansion house and the proposed addition. And then this is the north elevation. On the rear, there have been some updates by changing sort of the design of the addition. This proposal now is better able to take advantage of its location of being at grade. So there are additional doors. There's a sort of an outdoor space located in the southern portion of the lot that can be used for a patio event space. And the second floor rear addition has an inset balcony. So while the rooftop addition has, and rooftop deck has been shrunk, there's still going to be some, additional outdoor space in the form of that balcony. And this is where we're going to do a bit of a, sort of comparison. The previous design is on the top, and the current design is on the bottom. So this is the east elevation. So you can see how it's very much, a variation on the theme, but how it shows how it's been refined. Oh, sorry. Again, this is an elevation of the front elevation, showing the mansion house in the front and the addition in the rear. So you can see the previous iteration on the top and the current iteration on the bottom. So, whereas the previous design, it sort of poked out a little bit to the western side of the mansion house. In this current iteration, it is wider and more visible to the east. And again, this is the previous version and the current version. I tried to get the scales similar. But this version of the new iteration, the current design of this rear or south elevation, is wider than the previous version, and so again, it will be more visible from Landville Street. But this elevation in particular really isn't going to be seen from anywhere due to the topography of the site, the presence of trees, the presence of three-story houses immediately surrounding it. Like this is really not going to be seen from anywhere. And then this is the east elevation, showing again the previous version and the current version. And then I just want to show a few of the renderings sort of showing the experience on the ground of the building and the site. This would be a view from outside of the property on West Landvale Street. This would be a view as you go up the approach of the new access road and pedestrian path up to the main entrance. This is the view from the west of the primary entrance on the addition. And then this is the view, again, from West Landville Street, from across the street, showing the view of the mansion house, the carriage house, and the addition set behind but visible in between. Additionally, the carriage house will be altered in this proposal. The interior floor of the carriage house was raised in the 1950s, and the architects proposed to lower the floor back to grade. This will result in the removal of 2 exterior staircases, lowering of the entrances, replacement of the doors. So again, increasing accessibility so that you can just access it at grade. The proposal also reintroduces a window in the recessed niche on the front elevation above the doorway, which was extant in historic photographs, and the inset brick arch on the rear elevation will be removed and a large window system will be installed. There is the Saxe map. Again, sometimes these maps are interpretive and illustrative, and it's a little hard to know if it's real or not, but it does show sort of a very dark arch and that view from the south that seems to indicate that the arch on the rear was open at that time. It's unclear, but that was the design sort of inspiration for adding the enlarged window at the rear of the carriage house. And again, there are proposed major revisions to the site. Again, this is the prior proposal, and this is the current proposal. In this proposal, a new 20-foot wide two-way drive with a pedestrian sidewalk will be added on the eastern side of the parcel, which will lead to a reoriented parking lot with 16 parking spaces, including 2 dedicated accessible spaces. This will require relocating one of the stone pillars at the front entrance to expand the driveway. The existing driveway on the western side of the parcel will be, infilled with soil, leveled. And on the western side of the lot, the small parking lot that was located behind the carriage house will be removed. A large patio will be added between the addition and the carriage house, and a smaller patio will be built in front of the carriage house. And paved pedestrian paths will be added to connect the buildings with each other and with the parking lot. Existing vegetation and trees will be removed and replaced, and 2 stormwater management ponds will be added on the front lawn. And adjacent to the rear of the mansion house on either side of the hyphen will be sunken courtyards referred to as English gardens on the plans, which extend below grade areaways at the back of the mansion. So it'll essentially be just pull that sort of already excavated space surrounding the rear of the mansion and just pull it out and really make it a space, make them more intentional spaces rather than just weird areaways. So staff applied the design guidelines. And first I'm going to do roof decks. The roof deck is shown here. Staff finds that the proposal for roof decks meets the design guideline. It will be located on the roof of the addition, have a small footprint, will not be visible from West Landvale Street. Details on railing are not shown, but presumably, as shown, they appear to be classy, or at the very least, very simple, clean, unobtrusive. For alterations and additions, staff believes that the proposed rear addition meet the design guidelines for alterations and additions because it's compatible with the existing building in massing, height, form, and scale due to its location on the rear of the building and its design. While additions are typically smaller than the existing building, this addition is similar in overall size due to the programmatic needs of the owner. The architect has designed the addition to be visually subservient to the mansion, and due to the topography and surrounding built environment, only a portion of the addition will be highly visible from the street in the narrow space between the mansion house and the carriage house. The addition is contemporary and is connected to the historic structure by a 3-story hyphen, which does not significantly alter the historic structure. So while this does require the removal of the brick 1950s stair tower, the 1950s stair tower in and of itself is not a significant historic feature. The guiding principles for new design, staff also feels that this addition complies with the guideline. The proposed addition is a contemporary architectural design. It doesn't replicate historic styles, and staff finds that the addition is compatible with the historic mansion due to its massing, siding, use of a glass hyphen to connect to the mansion. For site design, staff believes that this proposal largely meets the guideline. The addition is located on the rear of the building, which retains the existing setbacks on the property. The proposal does not meet with the third bullet of the design guidelines, which basically requires that primary entrances should be at the front of the building. They should utilize the existing original entrance. That's not being proposed in this case, but that is because of accessibility. The use of the addition as the primary entrance allows for universal accessibility in the building, which would not be feasible from the historic front entrance. Staff also applied 2.3 scale and form, and staff believes that the proposal meets the design guideline. The addition is proportional to the mansion in terms of floor-to-floor heights. The fenestration of the addition, while very different in design, is compatible with the fenestration on the mansion house in terms of respecting the proportions and the scale. The addition sits at grade, which contributes to the overall sense of scale and massing. And the roof of the addition is flat, and so it's compatible and helps the sizable addition be visually subservient to the mansion. Staff also applied doors and windows. The proposed main entrance doors to the addition will be a modern, full glazed doors with side lights, which is kind of a contemporary take on the existing historic doorway of the mansion house, which has paired doors and side lights. And other doors on the addition have the same modern full glaze style. The windows of the addition and hyphen will utilize metal curtain walls and large plate glass. And staff finds that this modern treatment is appropriate. So for materials, staff believes, they state, choose building materials that are compatible with the color, size, texture, scale, and quality of building materials used in surrounding buildings. When a particular material is dominant, utilize that material in the new design. And then it also states, that cover and finish exterior walls with quality materials that are compatible with surrounding buildings, and traditional materials existing within the historic district, such as wood, brick, and stone, are preferred. For the materials, the applicant is proposing metal cladding for the addition and the hyphen. And per the guidelines, these proposed cladding materials don't fully comply with the CHAP guidelines. the two proposed products or cladding materials, the Pulse P1 and the Matrix MX6, are the two that are proposed. The hyphen will be clad with the dark gray Matrix MX6 paneling, and the addition will be clad with the white Pulse P1 paneling, which sort of has a Z shape, repeating pattern. Metal is generally not a typical or traditional cladding material on this site or in this, in local historic districts generally. However, there have been some cases where the commission has approved metal cladding for additions, such as the large addition to the Maryland Center for History and Culture, back when it was the Maryland Historical Society 20 years ago. 4.2.1 site context. The proposal, staff believes, largely complies with the guideline. The site has experienced many different phases of alteration over its existence, and historical photos, maps, and the archaeological record show that the landscape has been significantly altered over time. While some features are still extant, such as the stone retaining walls, wrought iron fence, commanding entrance pillars, many other aspects of the landscape have changed. The plan will be compatible with the historic land patterns on the site. And maintain the existing topography of the site around the historic buildings, retain open spaces. The proposed site plan will alter the land pattern in front of the property, as it will remove an existing road and introduce a new wider road with the pedestrian walkway on the east side of the property. But historically, there were roadways on the east side of the site. So introducing one here is arguably compatible. And while it will change the topography from what is there today, the existing topography in the front yard dates to the mid-20th century. It's not sacred, it's been altered. This proposal does remove a pathway from the road to the carriage house, which historically would have always had a path or road. So staff finds that is an opportunity for exploration. Staff also applied 4.2.3 streets, alleys, and parking. I'm going to show you the same images, sorry. From the 1860s to the early 20th century, the property had a circular drive in the front yard, only a portion of which survives today. And the project, again, intends to remove that surviving driveway and add a new one. This new driveway is evocative of the historic driveway. It will allow two-way vehicular traffic and pedestrian access to the site. So staff believes that as submitted, this proposal, while constituting a significant change to the site, does comply with the design guidelines. We also applied 4.2.8 trees and other plantings. There are 16 mature trees on the site as submitted in the previous iteration of this proposal. We have not received plans showing that, updated site plans specifically for forestry, but presumably the tree plan removal is the same or similar to what has been previously presented due to the, sort of similarity of where the overall construction and limit of disturbance is on the site. So there will be removal of trees, but including some mature trees, but due to forest conservation plan requirements, the removed trees will be replaced on site with native shade and ornamental trees. And this landscaping plan will add planting beds, more trees, and there will also be stormwater management ponds that sort of in their location and design are sort of meant to evoke that formal planting design that would have been present historically on the site. 5.2, archaeological resources. An archaeological survey was completed on this property in 2021. However, it only tested the unpaved areas of the property and certain paved areas that were at that point within the footprint of the proposal. But now, because the proposal has changed, there are going to be additional areas that are currently paved that have not been tested and will be impacted. And so therefore, staff recommends that archaeological monitoring be required in the portions of the site that are currently paved and have not been archaeologically tested that will be impacted by this proposal, and that the archaeological monitoring would result in a submission of an additional report documenting those findings. We did not receive neighborhood comments. The property is a Baltimore City landmark, and thus there's no neighborhood architectural review committee, but, community associations were notified of this proposal. So the analysis. Staff believes that the proposed addition has while it has a sizable footprint to meet the programmatic needs of the owner, the height and rectilinear design of the addition, along with the use of the glassy hyphen, pulls the massing away from the mansion, and the overall effect is an addition that is subservient to the mansion. The contemporary design of the addition is compatible with the historic mansion, and the fenestration patterns make the addition and hyphen feel visually lighter. The proposed metal cladding is not a material that complies with the CHAP design guidelines in terms of compatible materials, and staff recommends that the applicant explore other materials that can achieve a similar visual effect but better comply with the design guidelines. The removal of a road or pathway to the carriage house from the main entrances changes the land pattern, and staff understands from the applicant that they don't want to introduce unnecessary paving, and staff suggests that they explore how to create a path visually through planting or landscaping methods, sort of, be evocative of, but not functional. This proposal includes, again, more soil disturbance in paved areas that have not been tested for archaeological resources, so staff would advise that archaeological monitoring be undertaken. So that brings us to a recommendation. So staff recommends approval of the new rear addition and site work with final details to be reviewed and approved at staff level and subject to the following conditions: to explore alternative cladding materials that better comply with the CHAP design guidelines, explore creating a path to the carriage house using plantings or landscaping, and archaeological monitoring required for excavation in the paved areas of the site, which will result in the submission of an additional report documenting the findings. Thank you, commissioners. Any questions?
Thank you, Libby. Oh, Peter, go right ahead.
Just curious if staff has taken a close look at that recessed panel on the back wall of the carriage house. Like, are you confident that's infill material versus an original feature?
I'm not. I did not have a chance to do a site visit prior to the hearing.
Okay. And is there any idea of what the underlying floor is below the 1950s floor?
That is a great question for the team.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Catherine.
I just want to make sure when I'm looking at the photos, I'm looking at the right thing for the 1950s stair tower. If you can, flip back through.
I'm going to it. Sorry. Okay, it's, am I gonna get it? It's, right here. That is the stair tower.
With the porch.
Yeah, the porch was tacked onto it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
EK Powell.
Go for it. No.
Lauren, did you say that metal panel is not one of the, do we list materials in our design guidelines that are
Yes, so our
generally
design,
acceptable in historic districts, and metal panel is not one of them?
that is correct.
I just kind of wonder, I'm just putting it out there, if we might consider adding it. I mean, it's such a commonly used material, and obviously in industrial settings, it might feel more palatable than in other historic district settings. But yes, I guess.
Yeah, so
We'll get to that, but it doesn't seem improperly used to me in this application.
Right. Staff has to apply the design guidelines, and this is what the design guidelines say.
Absolutely.
Well, it does give the caveat, traditional materials existing within historic districts, so like in an industrial area, it would give us the flexibility to do that. Though in this instance, I agree with you.
Right.
Yep.
I just have a quick question about recommendation. There's two items that say explore, so just kind of playing the hypothetical design teams explores. They look at a couple of things, they come back to maybe the original proposal and say, hey, we want to move forward with that. Does that preclude them to move forward or not?
That does not preclude them. That's, yes, I use the term explore intentionally rather than a requirement. So that's why I said archaeological monitoring required, because I feel very strongly that that should happen. With the other two, yes, I recommend that they explore, but I don't recommend that they absolutely utilize. So that's, if the commission wants to make a friendly amendment, please feel free.
Understood, thank you.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
Lauren, can you point out exactly where do you want the path to be?
I'm just saying, explore.
I see like a lot of paths, so where exactly?
Yeah, I just said explore, just, something that, historically this would have connected in some way. So like some sort of sweeping arc, it could be a cool planting plan. I don't know. I'm just, I'm spitballing here.
So, but an actual walkable path or just actual, what's your?
No, I mean, I asked the design team and they can speak to this, but, they don't want to increase more paving.
Right.
And so, I garden, so I was just thinking, it could be interesting to, do something that sort of is evocative. There could be a planting scheme that sort of, goes up,
Kind of meander.
that meanders up the hill, something like that. Like, it doesn't have to be anything formal, but just something that sort of, that could be artistic. Not even necessarily present all year round, because plants, have life cycles, but something that could just sort of be evocative, but transient, not permanent.
Okay, all right.
That was just my idea, but I'm open to,
Oh, no, I was just curious. I wanted to hear a little bit more.
Sure.
About it.
That was my thought.
Any other commissioners? Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
We will ask, is the applicant here? By all means, join us.
Hi, I'm Claire Edelin with Zickerstein Architects.
Great. And Claire, I was going to give the commissioners opportunity to ask any questions to you. Do you have anything you'd like to say before you get vordeered?
I just would like to say thank you for your time in reviewing our proposal. I know you've seen this project a few times, so I appreciate you taking another look. I appreciate Lauren's recommendations as well. We'd be happy to explore those options and respond to those.
Okay, thank you, Claire. Commissioners, are there any questions you'd like to ask Claire? Yes, Peter.
I'll ask the same one. Have you guys taken a close look at the brick and that inset panel on the rear facade? Is that original fabric?
It's hard to tell. I can't say exactly. We can definitely take a closer look and see what we can find out.
Okay, yeah, I'd be interested in that. Not that I'm opposed to punching a window in the back wall, but if that's a real original fabric, I'd rather see a small window that's not taking up the entire architectural feature.
Right.
And then the second question I had was, have you guys looked into what the underlying flooring is there?
Yeah, there's a hatch in the raised floor, and it's just dirt beneath. Okay. You can see the steel beams that are supporting the 1957 floor. So whatever was existing, either it was just dirt or it was removed.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So there was some discussion about the metal cladding. I was just wondering, one, Lauren had kind of referred to in our briefing that there was some thought behind the scale and the rhythm of the metal cladding. So I was wondering if you could speak to that. And then were there other materials considered, or what kind of things did you guys look at?
Sure. When we were looking at the facade and the facade materials, we first started with the existing mansion, drawing inspiration from the existing proportions. And so, looking at this facade, we saw sort of a square proportion with that from below the cornice, and then above there's a sort of light white cornice on top. And with the addition, we sort of took those proportions and sort of flipped them. So we wanted sort of that lower dark base with a white square on light form on top of that. When we started to look at materials, we drew inspiration from the organization that is going to be in this building, which is Afro Charities, and they have archives from Afro News. And so we started looking at, the front page of a newspaper, the black and white text with large, pictures, photos, and headlines, and started taking proportions from that. So the idea of the windows are the large spots for photos on the front page, and then the white and the black brings in the newsprint idea. And as far as the metal cladding, we liked the profile gave sort of a horizontal rhythm, which is sort of like the text, and then the four, you see the four divided lines, which is like the columns of a newspaper. So, and then with it, we did look into a good number of materials. We landed on metal cladding, just, you know, it's affordable, easy to detail, and, you know, with a project with a limited budget, we wanted to keep it affordable, but also sort of bring in sort of the idea behind, you know, the organization.
And is the gray on the hyphen also proposed to be metal panel?
Yes, just a different profile. So that's sort of more of a flat profile, sort of recessive and a little bit more subtle.
Thank you.
Great. Are there any other commissioners? Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you.
So we have on this list 1, 2, 3 individuals that would like to address the commission. Is there a Savannah Mood here? Come on up, Savannah. And if I did not pronounce your name right, by all means.
It's okay, you just can't read my handwriting. But I'm Savannah Wood. I'm Executive Director of Afro Charities and President of the Upton Mansion LLC, which is wholly owned by Afro Charities. We're just really excited to be here. Thank you again for reviewing this. I signed up because somebody told me to sign up at the front. I don't have any deep comments to make, just that we're thrilled to be moving this project along and feel that this design really suits our needs and will be fantastic for the community. So we're excited about that. So thank you for your consideration. Happy to answer any questions if you have any of me. If not, that's okay.
I was gonna say, I have one random question.
Yeah.
So this language of kind of the metal cladding, if the commission approves it today, I'm just wondering if there's going to be some information somewhere that people will be able to know that that was the thought and intention behind this, because it's kind of a cool thought process to go through. And so it's also, if we approve it, it's kind of a non-traditional material and scale and things like that. So if the commission approves it, I feel like, you know, there's a story and a reason behind it that would be beneficial to be shared.
Absolutely. So we're actually working on a website redesign right now that will have more information about the Upton Mansion on there. One of the big ooh-ah moments in our design meetings was seeing this presentation of the front page of the newspaper, understanding how they were using the columns and the lines and these punctuations of photographs on there, really pulling from our collection. And something that Claire didn't mention was that they also had an image of newspapers coming off the presses. You might know that the Afro, for several years, produced their own newspapers in-house. And so all of that machinery was on North Utah Street. And so you could actually see images of the newspapers coming off the presses in these folds that are mimicked by the rhythm that's on those metal panels. And so all of that visual information will be available on our website once we get that redesigned, to be able to share the inspiration behind the design choices here.
Very cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Next, we have on our list Molly. Are you here? I don't. Okay, thank you. Thank you for being here.
My name on the list of Donnie Fitzy.
I was about to get to you if you'd like to. Would you like to come up and speak?
Yeah, I would.
Come on through.
Hi.
All right.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sidoni B. Fitzu, and I live at 808 West Landville Street, right across from the school. Okay? I don't care what y'all up here want to do with all this. I don't know the language y'all talking. The only thing I want to make sure that y'all keep that property taken care of. Mm-hmm. Grass growing all over the place. I'm the only one in the block. 808. It is no neighborhood comments. I'm the comment. I'm the neighborhood. I'm the one keep it clean, me and my husband, for the last 17 years. I appreciate all that y'all want to do. Just make sure don't pour over on me, and make sure whoever do it, do a good job and don't have no mess all over the place. That's
Awesome.
all I have to say.
That's appreciate that. Thank you. All right. Can you send us to our recommendation page? Thank you, Anthony. Commissioners, before we render a decision, is there a conversation that you all would like to have amongst each other? Sarah?
Yeah, as I implied earlier, I think that the metal panels in this case are used appropriately and do not detract from the historic nature of the building or the neighborhood. So I would not have any trouble approving that. And the only other thing I would say is I think it's a cool design idea that I see the proportions in the facade from a newspaper cover, but they still feel to me like they don't. I think the overall massing, and that's what we're here to talk about, is appropriate and works, but the proportions of the glazing and the divisions of the glazing and of the metal panels still feel a little big to me with respect to the existing house. So I would ask that you take a look at that.
Thank you. Catherine?
Yeah, I was actually gonna say something similar. I love the idea and the story behind it, but maybe just take a look again at kind of the scale of that idea in comparison to the main house. My main concern where that is really evident to me is can you go to the rendering of the front that looks kind of towards the carriage house?
You see the addition?
Right. There, there. This is the one that I'm especially concerned about, right? You know, where it's standing alone and the hyphen transitions to kind of the new space. I feel like the hyphen is pretty close to being proportionally there. But this view, I think especially, is the one I'm concerned about the most, just because you have the historic rhythm of the mansion house, you have the smaller scale of the carriage house, and then you kind of have the big mass behind it that reads that way. And even though this rendering might be a little misleading because you'll probably perceive the horizontals more, I still think overall just kind of reads as a big box. And this view especially is where I think that's really highly visible.
Good, okay, good, thank you. And Kip Howe, yes, sir.
I wasn't gonna say anything, but then he said that. It said about the view. I actually appreciate the box and the picture window of like seeing through the project and then having that sort of object, sort of reveal itself later and kind of a surprise at the end. So I would say I commend the design team and commend that effort charities to look at evolving from the former design and going to where you are now. So I think it's done a great job.
Thank you, sir.
I could see it being more transparent. I just think it needs to go one way or the other.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
I also wanted to echo my fellow commissioners' comment. I commend the developers and the owners for the work that they have done. You are right, this has a history of coming before us. And it's clear that out of the last hearing and suggestions and comments which were made by commissioners and the response from the commission is noted and very much appreciated.
Thank you, sir, appreciate it. Anyone else? Oh, Peter, I'm sorry, yeah.
No, you're good.
Yeah.
No, I echo everyone else's thoughts. I think this design is an improvement over the last time. I like it very much. Particularly the site plan. I think the biggest problem I had with the previous iteration was the house was just swallowed by surface parking. So having that pulled off to the side, I think, is a big improvement. I still think there's too many parking spots. So if you ever wanted to reduce that a little bit, I think it would be good. But all in all, a big improvement. I still have concerns about that big window at the back of the carriage house. There's only the one photo we have available right now, and it's just really hard to read. But that looks like good brick to me. I would hate to see that whole thing blown out, especially since we've got a corresponding relieving arch with segmental arch on the front facade. It looks like a intentional design choice by the original architect. So while I'm not opposed to perhaps punching a window opening in that wall, I don't know that I would necessarily want to see the whole thing opened all the way up. So that is the only real concern I've got. Otherwise, I think, again, commend the design team on doing a nice job here.
Great, that's great. Is there anyone else who'd like to contribute?
Yeah, I'll just really quickly, just following with others, I think this is much improved. I do still have a little bit of concerns about the box. I will say, as Lauren was going through the presentation, this is where I had a little bit of pause. Where, like Kapow, I definitely appreciate seeing through, but it's still a little heavy to me. But one of the things that I really appreciate about the changes that you made is the ability to have better outdoor spaces. And that really just elevates the design in my mind and for what I imagine you will use the space for in the future. So while I have a few concerns about the heaviness of this particular part of the design, I do think it gave the opportunity to create a defined space and connection between the mansion and the carriage house that, I can see being used in really a great way and even in the rear. So overall, I would love to see how things develop, and especially as you're doing your landscape plan and what plant selections. I won't obviously see all that or have any input in that, but I think that is only going to enhance the spaces that you create. And just a really quick side note, just because it's kind of on my mind and on my heart, we do have the one homeowner that is here. So if you haven't connected with her, would you have a space because you are now her neighbor? And obviously, so thank you for your testimony and for kind of your stewardship over the years. But you have a new neighbor that's coming, and so hopefully
39 years.
39 years. So just that was my only other comment. But well done.
Okay, great. Lauren, can you take us to our recommendation page? Okay, so commissioners with 811 West Lanville Street, Upton Mansion, Baltimore City Landmark, revised concept review, construction, two-story rear addition and site alterations. If there are no additions to the recommendations, if there is, say now.
Yes, if I could add one.
If you could add one, go on.
Back to my carriage house here. If we could just add in, and I don't have a problem leaving this to staff, but to take a look at that back wall. If it is definitively a mid-20th century infill panel, then I have no qualms with the overall opening. Judging by the front of the building and what I've seen in this one picture, I'm thinking that is probably a 19th century wall, in which case I would prefer to see a smaller window opening in that space so we can still read the original design intent of the carriage house.
Thank you, Peter. Sarah, was there something that you want to add? I remember you said something.
I was just going to revise that.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to put forth a slightly revised motion,
Yes.
if I may.
Yes, ma'am.
No one else has anything to add. So that we approve the new rear addition and site work with final details to be reviewed and approved. Do we want to see it again, though? Okay, at staff level, subject to the following conditions. Strike the first one. Keep the second two, explore creating the path and the archaeological monitoring, and add that the existing conditions at the rear of the carriage house be evaluated prior to determining fenestration.
Perfect. Perfect. Indeed, indeed.
Do you want to say anything about exploring the scale? Okay.
Okay. Now that those recommendations are put forward, do I have someone who'd like to have a motion to put that forward?
That was the motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any abstain? The ayes have it. Thank you. Can someone get Commissioner Jill for us to return? Thanks. Thanks. Next on our agenda, and thank you all for attending. Next on our agenda, give me a second. 1307, 13 through 1311 West Baltimore Street, Union Square Historic District, requests final review, construct 6-story building. The owner, 11 WBAL LLC. The applicant is Winfield Willis, and the staff is Mr. Tyreek.
Alrighty now. Uh-oh, still, that's my fault. Thanks. Good evening, commissioners. Good evening, community. Thank you all for being here. Today's request is a final review to construct a 6-story building at 1307, 1309, and 1311 West Baltimore Street in the Union Square Historic District. The staff is myself, Tariq Charlouse, and the applicant is Winfield Willis, and the owner of the property is 11 WBAL LLC. All right. Here is the property within the Union Square Historic District. So this is the second time that this property is coming back to the commission. This was previously heard in March, where it was previously approved upon conditions. All right, so on December 21st, 1999, a demolition permit was issued for this property. Was issued at this property for 1307 West Baltimore Street. In 1999, there is correspondence with HCD about the condemnation of 1309 to 1311 West Baltimore Street. Shortly thereafter, these properties were also demolished. At the March 12, 2024 CHAP hearing, the commission considered the concept review of this construction of a 6-story mixed-use building on this site. The commission approved the proposal subject to the conditions that the applicant continued the 4th floor cornice to better articulate the entry and return to the full commission with final details. The site contains 3 grassy lots. The site is bounded by West Baltimore Street on the north and Booth Street to the south. Row houses flank the vacant lots on either side. As seen in the 1890 Sanborn map, these were historically 3-story row houses that stood at 1307 and 1311 West Baltimore Street. This structure will be an infill project on West Baltimore Street, which is one of the main commercial streets in Union Square. The proposal is to construct a 6-story, 86-foot-high mixed-use structure on the south side of West Baltimore Street. The building will have a rooftop deck along the building's roof line. The rooftop deck will be accessed by an overhead structure placed along the west elevation. The building's main entrances will be on the West Baltimore Street facade, where there is a contemporary storefront at the first floor to access the commercial space and the residential areas of the interior. On the rear, the south elevation, fronting onto Booth Street and Alley Street, the building will be accessed by new doors along Booth Street. The proposal was approved in March 24 by the CHAP Commission, subject to several conditions, including the condition that it return to CHAP Commission for final review. The proposal today that's under consideration for this hearing shows slight revisions to the prior design. The major changes include the revision of the storefront and the 4th floor cornice. And these changes are based on the Commission's rulings at the March 2024 hearing. The storefront has been revised to include additional metal trim paneling on a vertical wall section between the storefront bays. The canopy supports have also been lowered below the 2nd floor windows. The 4th floor intermediate cornice has also been revised, and the cornice now continues uninterrupted across the 5th floor line, as shown here. The same brick coursing and detailing has been incorporated in the second from the right 4th bay after including the above cornice alteration. There is a mural located that is painted on the sides of 1317 West Baltimore Street adjacent to this property. This 2005 mural titled Greetings from Sewebo, created by forgive me if I mispronounce his name, Lily Kizik, and the Micah Community Arts Program will be covered over due to the construction of this building. The applicant is proposing to recreate this mural at a smaller scale on the upper elevations of this building that will be visible from West Baltimore Street.
It's our mic lab. He can't over here. wait for it to stop. That's not gonna work. You can't just move it. You have to close out of one.
Maybe they won't go back. Can you click into the slides again? All right. CHAP staff used the following guidelines when considering this new construction. We've used 2.1, 2.2 site design, 2.3 scale and form, 2.41 building entrances, 2.5.1 doors and windows, 2.5.2 materials, and 6.2 murals. As far as 2.1, the guiding principles for new design, the proposal has incorporated many of the character-defining features of the surrounding neighborhood. The datums on the West Baltimore Street facade do not directly match with the adjacent historic structures. The proposal only includes brick up to the 4th floor, leaving the 5th and 6th floors to be clad in metal. The proposed building at floors 1 through 4 are similar in material, form, and massing and architectural features of the surrounding historic buildings and neighborhood. At the 5th and 6th floors, contemporary design elements were added with the horizontal standing seam metal paneling materials. This clearly distinguishes the new materials from the existing materials within the neighborhood. For 2.2, site design, the proposal meets these guidelines. The proposal calls for full lot coverage, which is comparable with other structures within the block. There is a first floor storefront on the facade, which is compatible with the commercial corridor. The proposed materials complement the existing architectural character of the neighborhood. This proposal meets this guideline. For scale and 2.3 scale and form, overall, this proposal meets this guideline. While this building is taller than the surrounding structures, the size of the lot allows for the presence of a wider, taller building. The revised intermediate cornice at the building's 4th floor better matches the existing character of the neighborhood. We've also used 2.4.1 building entrances. This proposal meets these guidelines. The building's main entrance is located on West Baltimore Street through a new proposed storefront, which is compatible with the existing historic character of the commercial block. The proposal includes a stick-framed aluminum curtain wall panel system storefront, which is similar to many storefronts within the neighborhood. The pillars of the storefront system rest on cast stone bases. This revised proposal includes additional vertical aluminum paneling on the pillars between the storefront bays. The 2 canopies have been separated into 3, corresponding with the 3 bays of the storefront. The canopy support cable mounts have also been relocated on the facade below the 2nd floor windows. We've also used 2.5.1 doors and windows. The proportions of solids to voids and rhythm of the new storefront mullions has not successfully responded to the vertical window muntins at the above floors. The above floors have 6-pane windows with their own respective grid. The storefront's vertical mullions do not match with the datums of the windows above. There is a horizontal mullion that runs across the lower portion of the storefront paneling system that juxtaposes the windows above and mirrors their grid pattern. The proposed cornice meets this guideline, but the storefront does not. We also use 2.5.2 materials. The proposal clads the front facade from the base through the 4th floor in brick. The dominant building material in this historic district is brick on stone base. The storefronts within the neighborhood are both contemporary and historic storefronts with wood and aluminum paneling and detailing. The storefront in this proposal includes a cast stone base with modest paneling and detailing. The storefront in this proposal includes a There is an aluminum canopy supported by steel cable supports mounted to the brick facade below the 2nd floor windows. The side elevations are clad in cementitious siding with a combination of vertical and horizontal shadow lines. Staff believes that this proposal meets this guideline. And we finally use 6.2 murals. There's a mural located that is painted on the side of 1317 West Baltimore Street adjacent to this property. This 2005 mural titled Greetings from Sewebo, created by Lily Kizik and the Micah Community Arts Program, will be covered over due to the construction of this building. The applicant is proposing to recreate this mural at a smaller scale on the upper side elevations of this building that will be visible from West Baltimore Street. These murals will not be on a primary facade. However, the murals will be placed in a location high above the street level. The locations of the proposed murals do not feel compatible with the intent of the design guidelines for artistic expression, which states that CHAP encourages the use of art as a way to engage residents, create neighborhood identity, and showcase important elements of communities. CHAP's review is limited to how proposed art installations impact historic architecture, streetscapes, and landscapes. Art visible from the public right-of-way should add to the community while respecting historic architecture and neighborhoods. While the commission doesn't have purview over the content of murals, staff believes that the recreation of this large-scale mural at a smaller scale, high on the building, won't successfully engage residents, create neighborhood identity, or showcase important elements of communities. While staff commends the applicant for seeking a solution to abate the loss of this mural, staff does not believe that adding these specific murals to the side elevations of this building meets the guidelines. The Union Square Arc, Holland's Roundhouse, Neighborhood Association, Franklin Square Community Association have all received this proposal. CHAP staff has received a formal comment from the Union Square Arc Association before this meeting started. The Union Square Arc has stated their unanimous support for the Bull Development Project. They presented the latest updates to the community at last week's meeting and answered questions before receiving full support. The councilman was also there and said he would express, yes, the councilman was also there as well. Additionally, they met independently with the neighbors along Booth Street at the rear of the property. At that meeting, the members on Booth Street also supported the design as well. Apologize for that. All right. The proposal includes historic styles that are found within the neighborhood with the introduction of new materials. The proposal includes a contemporary storefront that is compatible with other storefronts within the district. The doors meet the design guidelines, however, the windows partially meet the design guidelines because they are not in alignment with the storefront at the first floor. They are contemporary in nature, therefore they partially meet this guideline. The proposal also includes new material and standing seam metals on all elevations. The front facades includes brick up to the fourth floor and standing seam metal within the same plane. By creating a setback on the fifth and sixth floor, the new materials contrast to the compatible materials where they will be highly visible and would not occur on the same plane. The revisions to the facade, storefront, and canopy do address the commission's comments as the previous hearing and help the building to better comply with the design guidelines. The revised contemporary storefront is compatible with the other storefronts within the district. Though the fenestration would benefit from some alteration to align with the building's elements or the windows on the upper floors. The cladding on the bottom 4 floors with brick and the continuous 4th floor intermediate cornice better meets these guidelines. One element that does not fully meet the design guidelines is the location of the proposed murals. While staff commends the applicant for seeking a solution to abate the loss of this mural, staff does not believe that adding these specific murals on the side elevations of this building meets the design guidelines. Staff recommends that the applicant contact the artist and the Public Art Commission and work with them and the Community Association to develop a resolution. For staff's recommendation, staff recommends approval with the following revisions. Align the first floor storefronts and vertical mullions with the windows in the upper stories. Relocate or remove the proposed murals. And the final material details and signage to return to CHAP staff for approval. Thank you, Commissioners.
Tyreek, thank you. Commissioner, do you have any questions for Tyreek? Okay. Well, we do have the owner here, Mr. Winfield Willis. Would you like to come up? And if I pronounce your name wrong, you can feel free to correct me.
No, it was correct. I just want to say thank you for everybody taking a look at it again, and for your comments in the past and the comments that we'll receive today. And I appreciate the community support as well.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Mr. Willis? Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you. We're already at the recommendation page. Cool. Commissioners, is there anything you'd like to talk about amongst one another before we render a decision? Yes, ma'am.
I have one question, and maybe my fellow commissioners remember, that one. I feel like there was some discussion about the side elevation. I don't know why there's one part that's vertical.
They were trying to break it up. That's what they said last time. We did ask about that.
Okay, I thought there was some discussion. I just couldn't remember exactly what was said.
Okay.
I think it didn't go all the way down as far last time, but.
Yeah, so I guess the only thing that I was gonna bring up is that the top of the roof in the elevator tower, kind of traditionally with buildings in the city, usually there's kind of a break or a continuance of the cornice line there. It's probably not that big of a deal, and maybe I'm overthinking about it, but I'm thinking about how much taller this building is when you're neighbors as you're driving up the street. But I don't know that any of my fellow commissioners have any issue with it.
Okay. If there are none,
I have one more comment.
go right ahead.
On the front, I think that I know we talked about the entry last time, and I think that it's looking pretty good. I would just suggest only utilizing pin lettering above the canopy at the entrance and not also at the cafe. The cafe can have signage down lower in the windows, and that will just make it very clear where the entrance is to the building.
Oh, okay. Okay. Lauren, is that something we'd have to put in the recommendations?
No, because signage wasn't
Goes back to
included.
staff. Oh, understood. Okay.
So
that'll be
staff
reviewed
would
at
keep that in
staff
mind.
level.
Review the staff up,
When you see
okay.
it. And I do agree with Commissioner Good about bringing the cornice line on that elevation. I don't forget which side it is, just to kind of have those top pieces, just to regularize the cornice line. So just some sort of horizontal element there would be nice.
Peter, I thought I saw your hand up. Were you good or?
Yeah, I just wanted to gauge people's thoughts on the murals. I for one, am not bothered by them. Is that something that we want to include in the recommendation or no?
I think that, by putting them up high on this building, which is so much larger, am I correct in thinking that the existing mural is on the face of one of the adjacent buildings that's getting covered?
Yes, that's what I remember seeing.
Right, so, yes, thank you. It's so much more prominent up there, and it just looks less, do we paint murals on the hardy panel sides of new, taller buildings? It just seems like you can't maintain it, too. I mean, you're gonna have to get up there on a bosun's chair. I feel like the mural tradition is what we do to these sides of buildings when the adjacent structures come down, so I don't know, I think that the recommendation to reconsider that is well-founded.
And I'll just say, I don't have a strong opinion one way or another in terms of the placement of the mural. I know there are a couple others in the neighborhoods where it's at the top, but it's not as tall a building. This is one of the taller buildings, so I get your point in terms of the prominence of it, but I don't have a strong feeling one way or another.
Same here, same here. Okay. If there is or are no other comments, Catherine.
I have one more question. This is actually for Tyreek. Yeah, no. If you can go to the recommendations page, it's a question on your recommendation. When you say align the first floor storefront vertical mullions with the windows in the upper stories, does that include adding a kind of a column base where it's basically missing on the left-hand side, or no?
No. So the current, you can see them here. So they do separate the storefronts properly into the respective bays. However, those interior mullions don't align with the vertical muntins at the windows above. So I believe if they move those vertical muntins that seem to be paired, little bit out, a little more, they would align perfectly with the window muntions above. So that's all we're requesting.
Does that bother anybody else that there's not kind of a resolved base there?
I don't know what you're referring to.
Oh, okay.
The mullions, it just comes straight down. Yes, that works.
That aligns with the brick opening, right?
Yes.
So those 2 mullions align with the edges of the window opening.
but
I
these
think I see what the
interior-
issue was there. I think that if they aligned those first floor mullions with the ones above, you'd have too many skinny ones.
Exactly.
It's still not working. I feel like maybe, and this is really I don't think we need to put this in a recommendation, but just for conversation's sake, that I would be interested in seeing what it would look like. I see if you just took in the bay of the window above the punched windows, if you just made that equal, and then had the middle one align with the width of the masonry pier above. I would look at that, that's all. But
To Commissioner Good's point, you want to replicate the black pier.
That's why I was asking if it bothers anybody else. I mean, just because I think the mullions lining up there is good. It helps kind of continue that line down, but it's kind of an unresolved base, which bothers me personally. But if nobody else cares about it, then
Catherine, so that I'm clear, what you're saying is under the cafe sign, you're talking about will be brick all the way down?
It would just be a replication of that.
Like this,
over there.
Oh, yeah, that doesn't bother me either. Yeah, I got you. Okay. That's what you're talking about. Okay, all right.
right, like column base.
Okay. Back to the recommendation page. 1307 through 1311 West Baltimore Street, Union Square Historic District. Final review, construction of a 6-story building. Do I have a motion to put the recommendations forward?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstain? Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Tyreek. This will conclude our hearing.
hold on one sec.
Yes,
Sorry,
yes, yes.
sorry. Okay, just the one thing that I wanted to suggest.
Yes.
Since, as we mentioned at the lunch table, was that since there has on several occasions been confusion by attendees at the hearing about which paper they're supposed to sign in
Oh,
on
yes,
to
yes,
speak,
yes.
that we create, if this makes sense, one sign-in sheet that has a check mark column for each project that's going ahead, each property, and they can just check off which property they want to speak for rather than having to do different pieces of paper.
Sarah, thank you for sharing our conversation. Yes, let's do that. Let's look at that recommendation and cool. Are there any announcements that anyone would like to make? Any old business? Any new business? I call this meeting to a close at 3:33 p.m. Everybody have a great evening.